Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive edition here on Secrets Behind the Stars, the place where we slow down the noise and uncover the tender, complicated moments behind the glimmer you see on screen. Before we step into this layered story, remember to subscribe, tap like if you feel the pulse of what we do, and if you truly want to keep these thoughtful narratives alive, consider hitting join and becoming part of our growing family. Today, we're walking into a storm many hoped would never arrive. The clouded horizon forming around Barış Baktas and Yağmur Yüksel, a pair whose balance once felt so grounded that fans believed any gust thrown by the industry would break upon it and disappear. For years, the arc of their bond has been watched almost as closely as their work. They weren't admired only because they are two luminous figures in Turkish television. Admirers saw in them an authenticity that seemed rare in a world of rehearsed smiles and curated moments. There was a sense of equilibrium between them. Two ambitious actors carefully carving out space for one another amid the perpetual interruptions of celebrity life. Their quiet gestures, their ways of encouraging each other without spectacle, and the ease with which they navigated each other's demanding routines became a source of inspiration. Many believed they had discovered the delicate blueprint for how love could coexist with drive, artistry, and fame without being swallowed by any of it. But closeness, in a world like theirs, is a fragile currency. It has to be guarded intentionally or it simply leaks away. Even the strongest partnerships can start to carry more weight than they were built to hold. Too many days stretched thin by location shoots, too many exchanges crammed between obligations, too many nights where the fatigue of performing drains away the warmth left for home. Insiders who know this terrain well often say love in the limelight must flex if it wants to last, yet flexibility isn't an instinct, it's a skill. And even the most loving people can find it hard to learn under the watchful glare of an audience. What filtered out from those close to the pair didn't point to one explosive moment, but to a slow build-up, like fine sand piling until it tips the scale. Nothing dramatic enough to trend by itself, rather, a quiet succession of differences, scheduling friction, unspoken expectations, mismatched rhythms, stacked week after week. Picture the constant renegotiations. Which project gets priority, whose call time reshapes a weekend, what boundary is held or eased, and how much of their private energy is left once the last scene is done. When emotional withdrawals begin to exceed deposits, even a bond as cherished as theirs can start to feel stretched to translucence. Fans process the whispers with a mix of worry and heartbreak. Many have followed them since the days when their screen presence first sparked conversation and speculation, seeing in their chemistry a reflection of something more than co-stars simply doing their jobs. Yağmur, with that understated honesty she threads into her performances, has long carried the reputation of someone who brings nuance to every role. Audiences often say she wears the fragile parts of a character without ever turning them into weakness. And Barış, whose rise from romantic lead to a performer with serious craft has been steady and intentional, has grown into an artist known for precision, resilience, and a mindfulness that goes far beyond his effortlessly striking presence. The tenderness with which they used to speak about each other suggested a shared understanding. Cameras capture a lot, but they do not carry the weight of those moments when the set is struck and the quiet returns. If you're absorbing the human texture of this story, the part that rarely makes the headlines, like this video and subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars. By hitting join, you help us continue creating the kind of careful, compassionate storytelling that doesn't rush for clicks. To grasp how a couple as admired as Barış and Yağmur could find themselves navigating rough waters, you have to consider the invisible toll of being seen. Red carpets and premieres can look like play. But behind polished images are hours of preparation, the discipline of poise, and the constant awareness that every glance, every gesture can be spliced out of context and spun into a narrative neither of them authored. Light-hearted clips turn into fuel for speculation, and silence becomes suspicious by default. Protecting a private life inside that climate requires effort that doesn't show, a hidden labor on top of the roles they already carry. Filming adds complications most viewers rarely imagine. Emotional scenes leave residue. A day spent unpacking heartbreak or betrayal for the camera doesn't vanish when the director calls cut. You can press reset on makeup and wardrobe. You cannot snap your fingers and clear the feelings you just ran at full speed. Actors ferry themselves between emotional worlds, and that shuttle, again and again, scene after scene, can leave anyone depleted. Add to that the travel, the press commitments, the endless requests for one more interview, one more photo, and you begin to see how even the most grounded relationship can start to wobble. Some insiders say deeper questions emerged, the kind that rarely explode but instead breathe quietly in the corners of late-night conversations. What does the next chapter look like? Where does work end and life begin? How do they carry their ambitions without letting those ambitions carry them away from each other? Incompatibility doesn't always shout. Often it arrives as a soft mismatch, goals tilting in slightly different directions, compromises feeling heavier with each repetition, a dawning understanding that love, by itself, may not be the only glue a future needs. For those who held them up as an example of lasting balance, even imagining this was hard. But relationships are complex worlds. External admiration can't solve private math. What has stood out, perhaps more than anything, is how their supporters have responded. Many voices have been gentle, offering patience and a kind of mature sadness rather than blame. Some continue to hope that this is a passing storm, that weather can turn. Others brace for a quieter ending, the kind that arrives without scandal but leaves a long echo. Of course, as always, the internet carries everything at once. Tenderness beside accusation, empathy beside critique. That duality is the fee of fame. Love and scrutiny are delivered together, and you don't get to refuse part of the package. Then there were the rumors of repairs attempted, signs of two people trying to reclaim their center. Reports of short weekend escapes where they left the city behind, trying to remember what ease felt like without timetables hovering over them. Evenings without screens, just the simple rhythm of cooking at home and letting conversation stretch past midnight. Walks along the water where neither of them had to be anyone but themselves. Long talks about boundaries, about work that feeds rather than drains, about the shape of a life they could still build side by side. Did those efforts close the distance or simply soften the edges as a new reality took form? Only they know that answer, and perhaps that privacy is the point. Where do things stand now? Truthfully, no one outside their closest circle can say for sure. There has been no press release to frame the story in bold letters. No official separation. No triumphant reconciliation post. Not even a careful acknowledgement of change. It might be that this is exactly how they want it, dignity over spectacle, privacy over performance. In a climate where the smallest personal update can be sliced into a dozen headlines, their decision to keep quiet may be the strongest statement of mutual respect they can offer. Whatever unfolds, what they created together, in their art, in their presence, and in the way they modeled care during the climb, is now woven into the memory of this era of Turkish entertainment. Whether together or apart, their influence doesn't vanish, it evolves. Maybe that is the deeper story. Two people learning who they are beneath an unblinking gaze, choosing next steps that reflect growth rather than nostalgia. Maybe love that changes isn't love that fails. Maybe it's love that tells the truth about the distance between who you were and who you're becoming. Fans may never witness the precise moment where the path bends. But they will feel its echo in the work, in the stillness that follows, in the measured way both Barış and Yağmur carry themselves as the conversation swirls around them. Tell me what you sense beneath the guarded quiet. Do you think this is a passing climate, a sudden squall testing the rigging, or is it the final page of a chapter everyone thought would run longer? What lessons do you think lie inside their decision to hold space, to answer nothing loudly, to resist the economy of oversharing? And which other iconic Turkish stars would you like us to explore next here on Secrets Behind the Stars? Your thoughts shape what we uncover, and your empathy sustains the way we tell it. Like, subscribe, and tap join if you want to help us keep crafting these in-depth, careful stories that don't treat people as plot points. However this unfolds, remember that not every silence hides a secret. Sometimes a closed door simply means two people are protecting what remains tender while they decide what must change. For those of us watching from the shoreline, it's enough to honor the work they've given and the grace with which they are trying to walk through uncertainty. Whether the next time we see them side by side is on a set, at a premiere, or in a photo taken far from the noise, their story has already left an imprint, not as a scandal to be consumed, but as a human reminder that love, even under lights, has to learn and relearn how to breathe. This has been Secrets Behind the Stars, where every tale finds its deeper meaning.